Welcome to Check In to Check Out, the e-commerce growth podcast for mobile first. My name is Justin Ehrenstein, and alongside me is my co-host, Connor Burke. Actually, how do I pronounce your last name? Is it Horwat?
It's Horwat, yeah. You nailed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to Check In to Check Out. Today on the show, we have Andrew Horwat, Senior Manager of Digital Content, Retail E-commerce at Fortune Brands Innovation. So that's a fancy title. What does that mean? What do you do every day?
It is a fancy title, and I'm not a titles guy. So what it really comes down to is I oversee a team who is managing getting content from where it comes from to where it needs to be on retail partners, customers, and that's really everything else. That's kind of the trappings and the other duties is assigned within that role. It's pretty familiar to most people working in e-commerce, and it's just a nice long. It doesn't fit on the the table nameplate. So,
and so like Fortune Brands Innovations, that is a conglomerate of brands. Are you working really every day with every single brand?
No, actually, I'm on a team that is within a COE structure, and we're kind of allied to the security business. So some of the brands are Master Lock, Sentry Safe, Yale, Front Door Locks, things like that. We're allied to anything that's the previously known as home and security.
Got it. And so what is the structure of your team?
Structure of our team, it's pretty lean. It's just me and two specialists. We're under a COE where we're embedded in the business unit. And that's it. There's 3 hands on the ship with counterparts in the fleet, so to speak, in the other business units. And it's pretty, there's no such thing as, it's like, if you can lean, you can clean. Like if you ever spend any time in the retail side or the service industry, it's kind of what it is. If there's something that needs done and somebody's got hands to do it, we all jump in, and it's the structure's pretty flat.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you're in the security division. How often are you guys working with the other kind of divisions in bouncing ideas and getting better at your jobs working with them?
Yeah, pretty constantly. I think the thing that makes it great is the communication is so open. The way that our like one step up is considered. We know, hey, we just got this great idea, or we just tested this really great thing on Amazon or one of our other customers, and it's a little bit different in our vertical, but maybe you guys want to try some variation on that. So we're constantly in contact, and it's really I wonder if the water division could make use of that, or the outdoors division. So lots of open communication.
And that's awesome. So you just mentioned testing. I love to think about testing. And so what are you guys running experiments? Are you just trying out new content? What does testing mean for you? And how do you get insights to know what to test?
Yeah, so our testing kind of mindset is, okay, well, what are some of those gut feelings? Because everybody's got the gut feeling. Everybody's got what they want to know, if it's real or if it's just their biases, right? So we do it on a small scale. We run experiments where we can. Like I said, Amazon gives you the opportunity to run A/B tests, and we cook those up as frequently as we can. And then pushing past that feature onset of things that are just on the margins of the brand's typical approach. I like to tell my team, think of those boundaries as finite, but they're just beyond the horizon. So if you have a feeling, I'm going to let you race off and test it as long as it's within those brand guidelines. And let's see what resonates, like what actually is moving any needles. And if something pops, okay, let's see about testing it a little broader, and then maybe not full scaling right away, but definitely getting those iterative builds on, hey, this worked a little better. How do we reach kind of that resonant frequency, so to speak? And then finding those insights, we look at those moments. Like it's more than like the aha moment. It's like you hear people say aha moment all the time, and it kind of loses its luster. But I think it's the moment that makes you think, like, what's going on here? Where data performance kind of gives you whiplash. Yeah. And we love being proven wrong. And selfishly, we love proving other people's ideas wrong too, because it's the only way you really get outside of your own kind of bubble.
I love that. And I think the brand guidelines is really an interesting place to think about. As someone who is skeptical of other people's decisions, uh, how often are you guys able to ever test those brand guidelines, and are they actually helpful?
I think it's more of a constraint that is it can be pushed up against, but it can't be broken
Yep.
to a degree. So it's we can say, okay, we know that this is where the line in the sand is with the brand. We can't say something that's beyond that spot, but we can get right up against it and brush up and say, okay, maybe it's not about maybe the angle is different. Maybe it's like if we stand with our back to the brand and look in back to where people are experiencing it, what does that look like versus being on the margin of right at the brand and looking out and wishing we could do something else?
Yeah.
It's kind of that kind of perspective shift of, you know, I like to say um, microscope versus telescope. You can look at something on a really micro level and say, okay, yeah, that's a really, really core, almost nuclear insight. Or you can look through the telescope and be like, okay, what's way out there? And
Yep.
so depending on where your position is and which way you're facing, it kind of leads to some of those insights.
I love that. I love that. So, does your team do everything within, or do you guys also work with partners, or how do you guys manage that?
Yeah, so it's about everything we do. From a retail standpoint, we're a bit at the mercy of what data our customers can give to us and what we can accomplish within budgets and constraints that everybody deals with. But in the pursuit of resonance is that vector for conversion and retention. It's what we're always trying to do. And so big hat tip to Jay Acunzo, he of former Google, and he's one of my great marketing minds, my favorite ones. That resonance over reach mentality.
Yeah.
And so within that framework, it's more of a we we kind of just we don't get a lot of say in the build of the matrix, or we make it work the best we can, but it keeps us close to the strategy and impact of day to day, and also the roll up the sleeves work. And when we feel that this is that follows the WTF moment, like, oh, this is weird, and after looking at it, it's that where it's like, do we have the bandwidth to explore that fully now that we know? It's the kind of flipping the, okay, don't come with problems, come with solutions. Okay, I think that's what people mean when they say that, but in a more practical way. You can be super wrong in your solution, but the mental exercise of getting into it and how you achieve that insight or arrived at that insight is really then the jumping off point of, do we have bandwidth to do this?
Uh-huh.
Or do we have to get some help outside?
Love it. Can you dive into the resonance over reach uh, framework? Because I've kind of heard that on the periphery, but I've actually never heard it direct.
Yeah. So Jay Acunzo is just, again, I picked up one of his books, you know, when he had just went out. It was Breaking the Wheel.
Mhm.
It was you know, years ago at this point, but it stands kind of head and shoulders above most business books I've read to this point. And it's what I remember was being so good is that it investigated things like the aspirational anchor of a brand or an approach. It's like, okay, and I think he cites Death Wish Coffee. Death Wish
Mhm.
Coffee is one of the cases he puts in the book, and it's people in upstate New York wanted dark, 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 dark coffee as strong as you could give it, and the guy who was selling it, it's like, well, he could have done two things. He could have said, like, well, actually, and said, well, dark coffee has less caffeine because it's roasted away, but you feel like it has more because it's like a placebo effect. It's like, oh, dark, it's hard to drink, it's got to be doing more for me. But he didn't say the, well, actually. He was like, okay, well, I'm going to get robusto beans and I'm going to put it in the same roast and make it dark, and it gives that mouthfeel and that taste and everything that they're
Mhm.
looking for. It resonates with that consumer. So instead of trying to be the educator on everything, it's like, oh, you could, you know, there's all these coffees out there and you could pick any of them, but you should pick ours because this. He goes through the idea that, and he investigates that case as like, oh, that was about resonating with the consumer, giving the consumer what they want. It's like that old adage, the customer's always right in matters of taste, when you take the quote all the way to the actual end of it.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was kind of something that resonated, ironically, or serendipitously with me. It's like, oh, it's really those people who are going to be like, yeah, I get it, I want that. And the natural extension of that is the making what matters is another of his marketing axioms, is a good guidepost to have in nearly everything.
I love that. I think I think a lot of people all don't know what resonates, or don't know their audience enough to know what resonates, and they use their own taste, and
Mm-hmm.
and that gets you to a certain point, especially as maybe a founder or
Mm-hmm.
an early employee. It gets the company to a certain point. Okay, your taste was good, but then they don't know really what resonates. And I don't have a case study on this, but one example that I can really point to is Outdoor Voices, which was
Mm-hmm.
like a young athleisure brand about 10 years ago. And the founder, Ty Haney, like had a vision, and I think she knew what resonated, and then she got away from it basically. And now she's
Mm-hmm.
brought it back, and she doesn't know what resonates anymore. And she doesn't speak to her target market. And when she does, she's kind of lecturing and not listening.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the trends that I'm excited about now. I know there are things that I'm totally over, and I'll just spit that one out as fast as I can. I'm totally over using AI to answer simple questions, because it's kind of removed that, it's kind of removed the barrier to, okay, you have to put some effort into finding the data or the information you want. I get it. It's supplied to us. It's the next coming of, supercomputing in our hand, as smartphones did to us. But it's the effect it's had on chasing AI visibility at all costs is exhausting. I'm already over that.
Yeah.
But the one I'm excited about, on the converse, and when you talked about that case that you were talking about, it's an extension of the one I'm over, is how fast marketing fads are sniffed out by the people who are coming into, the key demographics, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. It's like there's like a real the kids are all right moment
Uh-huh.
with, it's like almost Sinclairian muckraking that kids are doing and young adults are doing. It's like they can sniff it out, and that's that skepticism that they can sniff out on the immediate moment. It's like disillusionment with current systems, and I think one of the companies doing really great work in that space is PacSun. And what they've done with their focus on Gen Z and Gen Alpha is they did a youth report. And as soon as they got that youth report finalized, they basically launched into everything they learned from it, shifting towards a system of content, co-creation that's more than just authentic. It's like all the marketing buzzwords, authenticity. It's almost the most inauthentic word that's
Uh-huh.
floating out there now. And so it's like, but it's beyond that. The weight you actually get me authenticity that you get from doing more than just putting customer centricity in your boilerplate. So
Yeah, I think that's so interesting about PAX. I haven't heard about this. I'm going to go research it after this. Uh, but I think of PacSun as a brand that's been for 18-year-olds for 50 years now.
right. I worked at one when I was in right out of high school. Like I worked one summer jobs after college, coming home, and I remember going in there and getting in trouble for turning the music to the Christmas pop punk that they had on the music server, and they were like, "Hey, they know we did that. We're going to get in a lot of trouble." And just kind of being that alternative approach to retail that they've always had, and now it's so centered on those audiences and understanding and knowing where they are, where they're playing, and not just doing it the same way they've always done it.
Totally. And to be able to target 18-year-olds forever, that you have to understand, you have to talk to your customer, you have to like really hear what they're interested in, how they move through the market. Like
Yeah. If
what
I could if I could figure out how to do that with locks and safes beyond here, put it on your locker and the bully won't shove you in it kind of thing, that I think that's the or he'll need to know the code to do it. I think that's where we could really make a big make a big splash, but we're still figuring that one out.
Do you guys get an opportunity, either your team or another team, to actually talk to your customer, do user research? Or
We have a consumer insights team that we work pretty closely with, and depending on where their focus is at any given time, we get a lot of great voice of consumer, and we're always mining, the same things you always do, mining the comments, doing the low hanging fruit, where you're like looking at where the friction is, and beyond friction, where the detractors are. It's the hug your haters kind of thing, and I think that's always been kind of, when there's nothing else, it's kind of that, if you can lean, you can clean moment again. It's like, okay, what is there to do? Well, there's a lot, but I think maybe it's time for us to revisit some of those reviews that we've been getting recently and diving back into that.
Totally. My personal favorite place to look for almost any brand, not every brand, is Reddit. It is definitely a certain demographic that's on Reddit, but you will hear what people think about any brands there, and they don't think anyone's listening. And that's the type of consumer you want to hear, good or bad. It's
the unfiltered, moderated internally by their own community. I think it's a treasure trove, and I think the early AI approach to, oh man, we're going to look at Reddit, and now Reddit being like, maybe you should stay in your lane and just let us do our thing. I think that was really refreshing to see that kind of come out of that early pipeline. So
awesome. So shifting the conversation a little, it sounds like you have a team that does a lot, and you've gotten there from learning. And one of the best ways to learn is through failure. And we all fail. To fail is to be human. So what's a memorable failure that you've had that you've been able to learn from?
Yeah, I've got two that I always kind of queue up. One from previous stops, like an early career stop, and one from a more recent, when we were first tasked with this real testing and learning, agile 2-week sprint type of understanding. The one from earlier in my career, I was working at an HVAC chemicals distributor. I was a marketing associate, and part of that, as we all know, is sales support. And so cue the national accounts managers coming to me with big idea. We need 10,000 units of this display. It's going to be great. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to make a big difference. Our guys and our distributors are going to love it. And me being younger at the time, I was like, sure thing. You got it, national accounts manager. I'm going to jump right on that. Me and the creative team are going to hop on that. 10,000 units later, I'm pretty sure there's probably about 5,000 of them sitting in the back of a warehouse somewhere or in the trash that never got sent out. And that was one of the big, wow, I really stuck my neck out for sales. Not to say don't trust sales, but to say, okay, when somebody comes with that type of groundbreaking idea, don't temper it, but be healthily skeptical of it and say, okay, so how many, I didn't ask any of the questions. I was just like, yes, sir. So saying, okay, how many retail outlets do you have to put these in? Are they going to get damaged to the tune of needing 5 per store? Are they going to need? So it was more of that channel marketing type approach of, I could have asked a lot more questions and learned a whole lot more. But then looking at back, I could also ask myself, what questions should I have asked? And it's almost that same learning process. And that didn't cost me that job. It was a, hey, maybe don't listen to that carte blanche, don't give them carte blanche to say, yeah, we're going to use budget on this. But beyond that, I think it just, the self-reflection that a failure like that allows for is pretty good. The other one is right at the start of this position. We were going in, full, clear eyes, full hearts, as they say, just really trying to race through all the tests we could. And one of them was like, hey, you know what? We always talk about safes the way that that everybody does. It's this, it can hold this. And one of the things I really loved was how grills, I was buying a grill at the time, and it was like, oh man, I can put 26 hamburgers and 3 chickens and, this and that on this. I know exactly how big that one is versus the next one up. And for something that internal volume in a fireproof safe is something that's a little bit more nebulous, I was like, what if we tried something different? And like, everybody knows how big a basketball is and things like that. And taking one A/B test and saying, okay, this could fit a whole basketball in it. That test went nowhere. I was sure, I was positive that it was going to make sense to people, and it sure didn't. And our president of the unit at the time said, okay, so what'd you learn from that? It's like, this is not the way to resonate with the consumer, and we're going to try this instead. And our next testing is like, great, sounds like you learned something, move on. And we just kept going. And so that velocity and that the okay to fail, like pushed out of the nest, falling bird, hit the forest floor, and then find our way back into the sky kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love that. What a great learning. Do you think that, I mean, you probably have the data. Was it the hypothesis wrong, or was your execution of the test wrong? And that's something that I'm always asking my team. Like, when an experiment fails, like, is it that our hypotheses are wrong? That in your example, that giving examples of things doesn't work, or may not work, or that we used basketball or whatever,
I
like,
think
or
it
the
was a little
image
bit
that
of
we used, or like,
yeah, I think it was a little bit of a mix. I think some of it's like and I know that's kind of a cagey answer, but I think it's a little bit of a mix. It's like not everybody who's thinking about buying a safe is buying a basketball, or might be in that intersection. And so
totally.
it's like, okay, where could we intersect something a little more valuable than a basketball that still has a defined size? It's
Totally.
like, okay, how many, and we built off of this and did certain additional tests following on it. See how many hard drives could fit in, how many how many years of taxes, how many things like that, especially in these fireproof safes and file safes that you need to make sure that's what people are storing in, making it contextual but also making it practical. And I think
Totally.
the context was missing when I was talking about chucking basketballs into a fire safe. So
Yeah. I mean, I see why you went with basketball. It's like, hey, yeah, I know exactly how size
yeah,
basketball.
yeah. Everybody immediately, you say basketball, immediately it's like if somebody says catch and throws you one, you're like you immediately put your hands up a certain
Yeah,
size.
yeah,
It's like, oh,
like, oh, great.
that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's good hypothesis, decent execution. Obviously the consumer didn't like it, but
Context.
if this looks like fun, it is. We're looking for e-commerce leaders who have an insight to share to help other e-com leaders. We're always looking for new guests and perspectives. Want to be on the show? Send a message to Justin Ehrenstein on LinkedIn. Yeah, awesome. So, what is your e-commerce hot take?
So this is always a really fun question to ask because e-commerce hot takes can be self-referentially hot and they're actually pretty lukewarm. And this might be a lukewarm take, but in my mind, it's pretty hot. It's like I always use it in strategy docs. It's like, it doesn't matter what we think. It really doesn't matter what we think. I put an asterisk in there and I when I have to explain it to other people, but it's a scary statement. But if we're honest with ourselves, it's just the natural progression of that. The customer is always right in matters of taste because we've never had this level of access to data about what consumers are really looking for and what they're really saying about things that fall short of their expectations. If we're constantly inserting ourselves into the copy and images and contorting research to fit the narrative that we thought we wanted to lead with, we're not serving the consumer. So at the end of the day, just to distill that all down, it's like, it doesn't matter what we think. Let's see what the data says, see what our hunches are, see if there's any overlap. And if there is, let's shoot for that overlap. And then we can feel good about what we think while also not caring about it.
I completely 100% agree. It doesn't matter, and it especially doesn't matter what the highest paid person in the room thinks.
Right.
Besides that, yes, we have to be profitable so we can all have jobs and grow. But it really doesn't matter their opinion because in most cases, they're so removed from the consumer. They're so removed from the buyer that they have they haven't talked to a buyer in years. Most times they haven't been on a sales call. They haven't done user research and they had a great, when they started this company, or maybe when they're hired as CEO, they know how to run a big company, whatever it is. That is great, but that doesn't mean that they know what actually moves the customer.
Right. And even over a specific set of time, you could do something exactly right, 6 months ago or a year ago. And then the exact same thing isn't resonating with who's looking at your stuff now, whether it's from a lifetime value play or whether it's from a new customer acquisition play. It's just the brand advocacy, research, data, it all has to inform. It's like they're the electrons in the whatever I'm trying to say, the nuclear diagram I'm trying to paint from there. It's like we have to understand the story at the nucleus and understand what kind of plugs into it to give it that form.
Yeah,
that's a little more close to what the consumer's actually saying.
totally, totally. So one of the things that that kind of builds off that I find, like, consumers really want value at the end of the day. They want to believe that they are getting more value than they are paying in price, in time, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you research what they find valuable? How do you know? How do you what are you guys doing around that to?
Yeah, and some of it's hard because the different customers, they've got different shoppers. It's segmentation at the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
And I think if you remove yourself from the segmentation and you try and make everything everything, or put the best stuff everywhere, you end up with not resonating with anyone because they think you're only one thing. It's
Totally.
like you don't understand me because I only shop at big box store A. But I see this. When I hear you talk about your product, I don't see myself using it because it sounds more like somebody who, makes more money than me, or is in a different life set. It's the constant. I spend everybody hashtag agency life. Everybody does a stint in agency, and you spend your time on that side, and you build personas, and you really drive them hard. And personas are great, but I think the joke is always, the elder millennial who is also into knitting and spending time at home and not going out and has a savings account, and the 78-year-old who has those exact same interests. You can't say that that's one person, because the elder millennial might have more things to lock up versus the person who's 78 and living in a managed care facility or something. It's the their assisted living facility. It's like some of those, this is the blind spots of what we've come to accept as demographic splits for segments, just kind of muddies the water so much, where you just feel stuck on what to send where.
Yeah, I agree. I think for all the data that we have, like in all the times that we talk to our customers, I think at the end of the day, 90% of companies don't know who their customer is, don't really
Mm-hmm.
know the segments that matter, because it's like really, really, really hard work to get that.
Yeah, I think, and with digital and everything, with everything being so removed, and then even going through the pandemic, everybody was just trying to get what they needed, what they thought they needed, through the least friction and the least barrier at the time. And we've seen kind of the tail end of that happening, where people, yes, there was the blip of everybody can go out now, everybody's going into stores, and it's great, and everybody can see each other. But some of the buying, selling, purchasing overlaps are completely different, because people's preferences have kind of evolved with the tail end coming out of the pandemic, which is, I think we're still in. There's still a lot of people who are evolving out of how they were in 2020 and even 2021 and 2022, and buy differently. And so the buyers at customers have one frame of reference. The direct to consumer side of things has another frame of reference, and everybody's looking for that magic bullet that's going to work at both. And again, if you're not investing in the opportunity to really segment and say, yes, I understand big box store A wants this. Big box store B looks like they want that, but they're actually telling us this because the data says this is who's purchasing. That's the most frustrating and, in an ironic way, hopeful thing, to have to differentiate that much. And I think
Uh-huh.
that's where the real opportunity coming up in the future is leaning into that differentiation. It's like people want that value. People sit there. I know when I buy anything, I sit there and I crunch the numbers and doomsday mentality, oh, what if I bought this and then I can't do something else I was going to do, but what, tax season's coming up, and what if I buy this, and it'll be fine because I can cover it with some of my tax refund if I'm getting one. And you start doing all of those machinations in your
Totally.
head, and it's like everybody's doing that. And if we're trying to distill it down to oh, this person just needs this. We're way off base. So
Totally, that's absolutely right. I do the same exact things when I'm buying things. We just redid our home, and we have a room that we're going to turn into our living room, and so we need to furnish it with a couch and TV and some other things. And we've been living in this home 3 months now, and we're not going to buy any of that for another 6 months because
yeah,
we don't need it. There's no need. Yes,
we've
we
lived in our
want
house
it.
for 5 years, and we still don't have a living room coffee table because we can't agree on what's going to fit
Exactly.
the space right, what's right for our kid, what's right for what's coming next, or when people come over.
Totally.
It's like we could spend $50 at IKEA, and I probably would prefer to, just because we have this indecision paralysis, and
It's totally
but at the
right.
same time, it's like we could totally be happy with the luxury side of things. It's like we get the value. It's made of solid wood. I don't have to make it myself. All of those wild swinging pendulum moments.
Totally. So when I go on a site, they're like, oh, why didn't he buy? It's like, well, what are all the other things going on? What is the one thing you wish your CEO or your bosses knew about your job that they don't?
Um, I'll preface by saying my supervisor is great. She's amazing. She gets me. We're very aligned on a lot of things. Broader, like to throw it into like a 30,000 foot. I wish what people, not like we were talking about, not on the front line of feeling customer centricity for legitimate customer centricity and what our team actually does. It's more than just the final mile. Yes, we're the team that's getting content where it needs to be when it needs to be there, being at the intersection of all these different teams, working as much as we can with all the multiple different stakeholders. But the lead time on all of that is so much longer than just being handed a baton as the anchor and the relay. It's like when I first got here, I made the relay analogy, but with the distinction that in many cases, because of how things are in most businesses, relay handoffs, people have an idea of where their job stops. And what happens is you're not at the relay transfer zone. You're not even running in the same direction. You're stopping, throwing the baton, and hoping somebody is watching when they have to catch it and keep going instead of. And I'll suffice to say that the legacy process is one way, and it's been the hardest work to be included and inject my team earlier and earlier and earlier in all of these processes, so we can account for delays, all the things that we see on that front line, saying, yeah, we could put all this stuff in. We know there's going to be review sections and review processes that take an extra 2 weeks, potentially 3 or 4. So we got to be thinking way in advance than we normally do.
Yeah, I love that analogy. You're not just giving the baton to someone, and you're not just handing the baton from someone either. You've
No,
already been
it's
running and you're running 5 races at the same time, um, in
the Olympics are
preparation
going
for
on right
them.
now. I don't know when the show will air, but I know the Olympics are going on right now, and I've always been a long track speed skater fan. I wanted to be one when I grew up, definitely. But the short track speed skating relays are absolutely wild because
Uh-huh.
they do their laps, and then the person coming in has to skate with them, match their speed, understand, and then they get to do their transfer where they push and they get a shove. That, to me, if I could move from people seeing it as a relay race to seeing it as a speed skating relay, a mixed double speed or a mixed team speed skating relay, that would be phenomenal because it just feels like a much more, noted analogy guy, Andrew Horwat, like finally has his new like back pocket analogy. It's like, but have you heard about long track speed or short track speed skating relays? Because that's what we should be. So
Totally. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I love speed skating. I've been really enjoying the Olympics.
yeah.
So the kind of last question is, where do you see e-commerce? Where do you see the opportunities in e-commerce over the next 12 months? Where for you personally, where's your
Um,
focus?
I'd say it's a good question because so much of it is down in the weeds that we don't always have the time to zoom out. And I hate using jargon like zoom out or 30,000 foot view, but um, I think the opportunity. I think it sounds trite, but it is the differentiation. If we're not dialing in on what really sets us apart, be it
Mhm.
distribution, quality, some of the things we've talked about, we're really not nailing it. We're not seizing the day on. I think the only way to stand out, and it's weird in this climate of AI and AI visibility. And like I said, I'm over AI visibility. It's exhausting, but at some point, there's this. It's somebody making decisions is going to ask, okay, how are we on AI? Big general statement like when
Totally.
creatives hear, "Oh, do it like this but different or better," and they hate it and they immediately go into the shell, right? And it's that if we're not going to really set ourselves apart and define that value proposition, I think that that's the only opportunity there really is. Otherwise, it's just lost in shoulder checking competition and understanding, or looking kind of that regression to the mean of everybody just trying to work as fast as possible.
I completely agree. I think differentiation now is more important than ever. I think people, whether they're using AI or not to shop, can browse 10 to 15 different options relatively quickly. Like even if they're just using Google, just in the standalone, like, and they're using Google Shopping, they can find 15 options for a safe really quickly, and they can evaluate how each option is better or worse. And how do you show that you solve the customer's problems? How do you differentiate? Is all that really matters. I think friction doesn't matter. And how do you help explain the value to that segment who's shopping? And
Yeah,
hopefully you get it right that that's the
and,
segment that
and
is
being
shopping.
right about the segment that can move. Like there's always you hear people say low hanging fruit, and it means different things to different people. But one of the big things I always hear people intend that to mean is getting more of what you're doing good at. It's like, yeah, that's great, but the that amount is like on this side of the bell curve. It's a couple standard deviations all the way to the top. And if you're looking anywhere, you want to move like the middle of that bell curve into the one standard deviation, or the one standard deviation to two, and you want to figure out where the movable middle, so to speak, is, and differentiating for them, because hopefully you're nurturing those people on at the high end who are already your evangelists, or hopefully your evangelists. You got to nurture those people differently in lifetime value, as opposed to the people who maybe you're spending way too much on customer acquisition, um, trying to see what makes them tick and getting it wrong. So
Yeah. I love that. So I completely agree. I do think differentiation will be the difference this year. What are you reading? Whether about e-commerce or about life, or what are?
yeah, so I'm a huge nerd,
Mhm.
and one of the things that I love now is pop culture's acceptance of things that would have gotten me shoved into a locker when I was in high school or growing up. I'm a big anime fan, so I'm still getting
Uh-huh.
over the fact that My Hero Academia just ended. But I'm really looking forward to the new season of One Piece live adaptation
Mhm.
on Netflix. Avatar: The Last Airbender season live adaptation.
Mhm.
We just finished the second season of Percy Jackson and the Olympians on Disney Plus. That was awesome.
Uh-huh.
Really great there. Rick Riordan, really great author, and he did really great with the showrunners there. From a book perspective, I have to shout out my high school orchestra teacher, Brendan Slocum.
Uh-huh.
He has become a novelist who's become absolutely killing it in bestsellers lists. He was on the New York Times bestseller list. I just finished his third novel, um, The Dark Maestro, and highly recommend his others: The Violin Conspiracy, his first novel, and Symphony of Secrets, his second. Music related uh, mystery,
Mhm.
very cool. I won't give anything away because his novels are amazing. The man was one of my heroes growing up because of how much he loved music and helped me love music. But now he's one of my heroes because he went through hell and back and has just come out the other end, just absolutely pumping out bestsellers, and it's awe-inspiring. And then rereading Breaking the Wheel, because I make myself reread it to make sure I still am abiding by most of Jay's
Uh-huh.
principles. And the funny anecdote about that book is I thought it was so good that I gave it to a previous supervisor at a different career stop, and it was so good when they left they took it and it was a signed copy. And I wrote Jay and I asked, Jay, my manager left and took your book and it was a signed copy. Is there anything you can do? I'll pay for another copy. And he sent me another copy. It's like, so I still have it. I still read it. And it's
that's
got,
awesome.
you know, so that's what's on my, that's what's on my reading list now. And I'll probably be, aside from all of the library books that my son, you know, our libraries prints out receipts of how much you've saved every time. And like, that's the best validation for using your public library you could ever imagine. Because it's like, oh, I've saved $10,000 last year from books I would have bought because he reads them so fast. Okay. Yeah. Go libraries. So
that's awesome. Yeah. My 4-year-old has discovered that we can rent out library books on our phone. So at bedtime, she's like, well, I don't want any of the books we have, 100 books we have. Let's go look at the phone. And now she has the whole world at her disposal.
Our 4-year-old's the same way. And it's a healthy mix of nostalgic books that we read growing up and the new stuff that he's now interested in. So
yeah, it's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Andrew. Amazing insights.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to press stop. Don't leave quite yet.